Welcome to this Wise Living Water podcast. Our messages are dedicated to guiding individuals towards a closer relationship with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Dr. Norman Wise is thrilled to embark on this journey with you. Through these podcasts, we aim to provide insightful material that will inspire and uplift your spiritual journey. Join us now as we delve into the teachings of Jesus Christ and explore how we can apply His wisdom to our daily lives. Together, we will reflect on the power of faith, love, and compassion in shaping our existence.
Greetings. It's great to have you here this morning, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to manage anger in myself and others. And as most of you know, sometimes anger becomes a problem, right? Or you wouldn't be here, right? So we're going to take a look at it, try to give you some tools, very practical. One of the most key things I want you to understand is if you leave here saying, "He never answered my question," the answer to that is because you didn't ask it, okay? Now, I can't tell you that you will like my answer, because I can't guarantee that, but if you ask it, I'll answer it. And also, I'm very, I'm easy. You can just raise the hand, and I can break in and out of my talk. I answer questions easily. So there will be a question and answer time at the end, but some of you say, "If I wait to the end, I'll forget." Well, okay, so just raise your hand and we'll handle that, okay? So no stress. But by the same extent, don't leave here without asking your question, because getting those questions answered can be very, very important. We're going to begin with a word of prayer because I need it, and it always helps me to find my place in the universe again. So we're going to approach the Lord. Dear Father, I thank you for those that you have brought here this morning and that you've gathered. Allow each of us to get a gift that you've prepared this morning for us, and allow our hearts and minds to be open to truth, and allow the truth to be transforming. So help us in the name of the Messiah, Christ Jesus. And all of God's people said, Amen. Amen. Well, we're going to talk about how to manage anger, and also how to manage people who get angry. And I think we have all been on both sides of that equation. You might say, "I never get angry." We have a course on lying you may want to take. And so the thing is that everybody gets angry. We express anger in different ways. Some people express anger by taking the emotions inward, and usually that leads to depression. And some people express anger by letting it out, and that usually causes other people to get depressed. And so there's all kinds of different ways we can cope with anger. And so now anger is just another emotion, but it's most likely the most difficult of all the different emotions to handle. And so emotions aren't bad, but they have to be managed. And we can either use emotions in a healthy way, in a correct way, in a positive way, and that includes anger, or we can misuse them. And if we misuse them, then it usually causes a lot of hurt. Well, some ancient wisdom from James, the half-brother of Jesus, and the main elder of the Church of Jerusalem in the first century, and a writer of the New Testament. Let's go ahead and read this together out loud. "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls." Now, in this, the Apostle James tells us that the anger of man can really get things right in our life, right? It doesn't say that? No, in fact, it kind of says something else, right? How much the anger, the uncontrolled anger of a human being, does it have the power to make things right? Not according to this. In other words, we have to be very slow to get angry, because that anger has to be well thought through, well directed, and well processed to be healthy. And there's a tremendous danger that anger will not set things right, righteousness, but will set things wrong. Now, he gives us two keys here. One, be quick to hear. We're going to talk more about that later. How do listening and slowing ourselves down and not immediately responding is one of the keys we're going to find to managing anger, both in ourselves and others. And also slow to speak, because anger doesn't usually motivate us to be slow to speak. It encourages us to speak before we think. And that's not a good idea. Most harm is done because we speak before we think, and therefore we say things. Have you ever said to somebody, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said"? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That means you spoke without thinking. Okay? It's called emotional vomit. Happens to all of us, okay? And you just kind of poof, and it has kind of the same impact on relationships that the vomit would have in the middle of the living room if you did that. It kind of shuts things down pretty effectively. So the thing is that we're going to have to learn some methodologies to keep that from happening. But by the way, the problems that you and I face on this issue are not new. This is the first century. Human problems remain kind of always the same. So there's some other ancient wisdom even further back. This most likely going to 1000 BC. Let's read this one together. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Anyone ever have a harsh word stir up anger? Okay. We're going to find that the hardest thing is that someone else's anger can trigger our anger. Have you noticed that? We return anger for anger. And so, of course, we don't feel responsible because they started it. But the problem is that they would most likely debate about who started it. Because, you started it. No, you ever see that in little kids' playground? Two kids are fighting, the teacher comes up, and teachers ask ridiculous questions. They've been asking ridiculous questions forever. They come up to two people fighting, and they ask the ridiculous, who started it? And the answer is always the same. Two fingers go up and point towards, I could have answered the question of that teacher before she ever opened her mouth, okay? Because that, and by the way, they would both pass a lie detector test. Neither of them are lying. They really do believe the other person started it. Oh, perceptions are so hard. If we could ask God, he could tell us, but he doesn't work that way. So, well, first of all, we're going to talk about the first part. We're taking the second part of the title first. And that because it ties in. How do you handle angry people? Everyone here, you've had to face an angry person sometime in your life. Is this true? Yeah? Yes. Okay, yes, that has happened. Yeah. First in the front row especially. Okay, now, the thing is, we have to know how to manage that because it's going to happen again and again and again. East of Eden, where you and I live, we all have the same address, East of Eden. We're not in paradise anymore. And therefore, part of the problem of living east of Eden is on a relatively regular basis, somebody's going to emotionally vomit on you for a wide range of different reasons. And the thing is, so we have to stop being shocked by what happens regularly. I mean, if you say, from this day forward, no one ever again will speak an angry word towards me, you are going to be mad within about 2 days, okay? Because that's a ridiculous expectation. People are somewhere along your journey from now to the day you die, they're going to speak to you in anger, they're going to relate to you in anger, they're going to emotionally vomit on you, and it's happened before, it's going to happen again, and I can't give you any secret to keep people from doing that because we're going to find later you only control yourself, you don't control anybody else on the planet. You can't keep someone from losing their temper. Don't try that, by the way, that usually makes them mad. So you have to be very aware, and so part of it, by the way, we can only maintain self-control when we keep our expectations realistic. So, what happens when someone gets elevated, when you get elevated, when I get elevated, when human beings get elevated, it kicks off chemistry in us. It's called the fight or flight mechanism. And the thing is, you have to understand when that chemical reaction goes off in the human being, and they actually, scientists do weird stuff. What we do is we wire people up to a bunch of equipment, and then we make them mad so we can record what takes place in their brain when they get mad. We purposely irritate them to where they get mad so you know what happens? All the electricity that goes to the part of the brain that deals with reason, logic, problem solving, self-control, it doesn't get any electricity. It shuts down. And all the electricity goes into the areas that deal with passion, emotions. Let it go. So if you try to talk to an angry person by speaking to them rationally, you're wasting your time, because that part of their brain is not working, okay? And you will, in fact, get very frustrated and irritated, because then they won't be paying attention to you, so you're going to be mad. Yes?
What do you do instead?
That's the next two slides. I'm glad you said that. Good question. First of all, you have to decide to break the cycle. And the cycle is going to take about 20 minutes of dialogue. Now, you have to make some choices here. If they are verbally abusing you, if you think you're in physical danger, you can even say, listen, I don't feel comfortable continuing the conversation. I want to take a break. Could we talk about this afternoon when everybody's calmer? You can even do that. You can pause the conversation. It depends on how intense it is. But you don't have to necessarily keep yourself in a dangerous or abusive situation. You can just say, time out, I want to take a break. And by the way, if you go to the bathroom, you're relatively safe, because most people won't follow you there. So it's a good retreat place to go. So the thing is you just have to break. But in some cases, you can continue, but you see, this is the key. You have to understand this, and you have to get it down so deep that you're saying, oh, they're emotionally vomiting. I don't have to vomit in return. Now, that's going to mean, by the way, the second part of this is going to give you methodology so that you can remain calm. Because you see, most of the time, we believe that we're responding to the anger of others. And so the second part is going to tell you how to keep yourself under control. But understand, if you don't keep yourself under control, then you do have to end the conversation. If you can't remain calm in the face of their anger, why do you have to end the conversation?
Is it proper to just leave the home when it's happening? So that's it.
It is okay. Starbucks is a great place to visit. They usually have nice music. In other words, if it's necessary to leave and say, listen, you don't want to cause worry in anybody. You also don't have to peel tires. It's okay. Slamming, you just leave. Okay, just say, I need some time to think, and I'm going to go down to Starbucks. And if they follow you to Starbucks and start yelling at you in Starbucks, the manager will call the police, and that handles the problem. Okay, it's okay. Say, most people don't take it public. Okay, so you go to a library, it's even greater. You talk about protection. That librarian will beat that person to a pulp if they say, shh. Okay, so you can go to a safe place and do that. So that's true. But there's another reason why, and this is true. If we're in a place where we don't feel safe, we can just. Now we're going to talk later. That doesn't mean we never talk about the issue. It means we find a safe way to talk about the issue. We find a way of communicating so that people don't get frustrated. Like, you never want to talk. No, I never want to have you emotionally vomit on me. That's two different questions. But we have to talk about communication. But if we're going to stay with that person because we think the anger is not, terminal, and they're irritated, but they're not being yet abusive, but why is it important for us to remain calm? What will happen if we don't remain calm in that conversation? You're going to emotionally vomit back. I have one member of my family, they have sympathetic vomiting. So if one person vomits, we have two people vomiting. Okay? And that is kind of what happens. You see, if they start expressing anger, you start trying to give them a perfectly reasonable answer They, of course, are not responding to the reasonable answer because their brain shut down. You get irritated that they're not responding in a reasonable way. You go into fight or flight, and bang, you have two people vomiting on each other. Well, that helped the situation. So you see, you have to understand, you have to ask yourself the question, can I remain calm in this situation? I used to be the manager of a pest control company. We had 3,000 customers. People get very emotional over bugs. They really do. And so most of the time when a phone call came in from a customer, it wasn't to say, I love your company and I think you are the best pest control company in the world. It was because they were already elevated and upset. My job was remain calm and actually to follow through with using this process with upset customers. Now it's easier with upset customers. Why? I don't have a personal relationship with them. They can call me stupid, they can verbally abuse me, they can go crazy, but really, I just want their check at the end of the month, so here, let's work this through, okay? So the relationship, because it is more distance, allows me to remain calm, okay? By the way, that's true. The more distant the relationship, for most of us, that means we can remain more calm. The closer the relationship, the harder, and that's why we fight most crazy with the people in our own home. There was a question. Gentleman at the end, did you have a question? Go ahead.
No, I was saying that even Newton's law, Newton's first law, that to every action is equal and opposite reaction.
There you go. See, we are supported by physics, and this is good. I always like it when we can call in bright people to help us. It's good. Well, how do we handle? First of all, I must be able to remain calm, or I remove myself, and then hopefully come to a point where we both are calm. 3 keys. We send back, because we're calm, we're under control, we understand the other person is elevated, that all the electricity is going to the more emotional side and isn't going to their logical brain. So we start echoing back and we say, well, I know that, you're really upset about the fact I forgot your birthday, and that has really caused you a lot of pain. I know this. I am hearing what you're saying. Do not say to them, I know how you feel. What will come back? No, you don't know how you feel. And the fact is you don't. What you're doing is you're imagining that at some point where someone hurt you, that they're feeling the same pain you felt, because I'm going to tell you something, the only pain you have ever felt and only pain you will ever feel is your own. That's simply psychologically and physically true. I can love my child a great deal. They go on a bike, they fall down, they skin their knee. I do not grab my knee and go, oh, it's hurting so bad. You can look at their knee and there's marks on it and there's blood coming out. You look at my knee, there's no marks on it, no blood coming out. So the reality is, no, the only pain that we have ever felt is our own, and it's in fact true, we'll talk about empathy later, that we can build a bridge between, oh, they may be feeling something similar to what I felt, but by the way, everybody's so unique, we don't really know what they're feeling. The only way we know about what they're feeling is what they express, and so we want to say, we're listening to you, be quick to listen. And by the way, the number one hunger people have is to be heard. It's funny how the subconscious mind works. Go ahead. Yeah, question?
Well, one of the things, this sounds wonderful, and I've used it sometimes with other people, but some people get mad when you say, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You say
Right.
such and such, and then they get more mad.
Right. You have to understand, and I will emphasize this. I can tell you, it's a proverb. This is all Proverbs. No one controls another human being. What I tell you is something like, a soft answer turns away wrath. Not all the time, okay? But there are smarter things to do when facing an angry person, and there are less smart things to do, okay? If you're getting feedback that this is not helping, stop it, okay? Because each person is individual. This is an art, not science, plus you never control the other person. Somebody can decide, and by the way, one of the reasons they're saying that, They don't want to calm down. They want to stay mad. And so sometimes when you're using an effective method that will begin to de-escalate somebody, they're not ready to de-escalate. They don't want to de-escalate. They even know a little bit about this stuff, and they're going to fight with all of their being to stay mad. You can't control that. Now, you can adjust some of the strategy because we have 3 points here. You can go to point 2 and see if that works any better. But by the way, there's no one that can teach you how to control another person. What we can do is say, this is a sane, stable, and spiritual way to respond to someone who's angry. But by the way, if they remain angry, you can fall back to strategy 1, leave. Say, I can see we're not really going to be able to talk right now. I do want to talk when, we've calmed down. And so I'll check back with you. And, when you feel calmer, I'd love to talk to you about this. And then withdraw. So if someone is fully dedicated to staying mad and you're not going to get anywhere, you always have the option to pause. Now, you do not abandon, reject, or say drop dead. That's not the same thing. Say, that's basically fight or flight on your side. But you don't have to keep into a non-productive relationship. However, there are some times where it's very hard to do that. In my case, when I'm dealing with 3,000 customers, most of the customers would have been happy if I said, sorry, we won't talk about this now. Well, sometimes I had to do that, but I had to make sure I called them back within an hour and said, listen, could we talk about it now? And usually then at that point, they saw that, okay, he's not going to allow me to yell and scream and swear at him, so I guess we have to move on. But if I hadn't called him back, that would have just been added fuel for them to get mad, okay? So nothing can give you control, but you can be a good influence or a bad influence. You can be sane or insane in your response to an angry person, okay? So echoing back, saying I know is a good thing. Most people will feel firm, and the number one thing that people want to do is be heard. And subconsciously what happens, the reason we raise our voices, when I'm talking to you about an issue and I'm really been hurt in some way and I'm really expressing my hurt inappropriately by yelling and screaming, or by at least elevating at this point, what normally happens is that, that person starts telling you why they are hurt or upset, and they're elevated. We usually respond by telling them why they shouldn't be mad or upset, don't we? I'm really upset about this. Well, here, let me explain why that's not valid and why you have wrongly responded to everything, and in fact, why you're stupid, but that's okay. I love you anyway. And so we begin sending back this signal. What happens is the subconscious takes not being heard literally, like they must be deaf. So what the subconscious sends to the vocal cord, raise your voice. So we raise our voice. And by the way, anyone ever talk to a person hard of hearing and be talking to them and see that you have to raise your voice, but then actually find yourself getting mad at them? Yeah, because you see what it is, we're so frustrated, and even though they physically can't hear us, we're frustrated to a point where our anger is starting to kick in just because we hate not being heard. Now, when we raise our voice, and we're not, by the way, echoing back what they said, their subconscious says, oh, they must not have heard my perfectly reasonable explanation, so I must have to say it louder. So both subconsciouses start raising the volume. And of course, the louder you speak, the louder the other person got to speak, or they won't be heard. And you get yelling. Isn't that amazing? So the thing is, understand that is totally, wonderfully understandable, but crazy. And I am crazy sometimes. So are you. So the thing is, that's what's happening. So when you start saying, the first thing is make sure you're affirming that you're hearing them. It will normally, at a subconscious level, begin to de-escalate it because they say, I'm finally being heard. Talked to an upset person not too long ago, and they kept repeating. Then that's the other thing. Upset people will repeat their message because they don't think they're being heard. So what it is, you just keep You can put it in different words, but you keep affirming, well, let me see if I understand this, and so on. Because once they know they've been heard, a whole lot of energy will go out. Now, listening is not agreeing. That's where we get confused. I can let someone vent. I can let somebody emotionally vomit. If I'm a nurse, I have to let people vomit, you know? If a nurse came up and said, oh my goodness, you're vomiting, took some tape and put it right over your mouth, there, that solved the problem. That wouldn't be good. If that happens, sue, okay? So the thing is, they have to get it out. And they most likely have never been trained on how to get it out in a healthy way. And they most likely only have seen other people get it out in an unhealthy way. And they haven't had the wonder of coming to this seminar knowing how to get it out in a healthy way. So therefore, you let them vent. Okay? Because part of it, remember, we're trying to get through the 20 minutes of crazy. We're trying to not re-elevate them. We're trying to not set off the fight and flight a second time, and you got 20 minutes before they're going to be rational. Because it's going to take 20 minutes for the electricity to kick back in and go to the rational part of your brain. You're just really kicking off time. But if you start the cycle again, you got another 20 minutes. Yes?
Could it be that people are somewhat addicted to that 20 minutes, and that's why they keep doing it?
Yeah, what happens is we set each other off again. See, in other words, it's 20 minutes every single time the fight or flight goes off. So when we get into an argument, they yell at us, then we yell again to them. Well, now we're up, we're elevated, okay? Well, we set them off again. Now they're mad about something else, about what we just said. You know, people tell me they don't have time to do the healthy thing. I said, okay, just how much time did you spend in the really intense argument with someone in your house? It can be days. Okay? People will take breaks just to kind of, but they're not cooling off. They're elevating while they're taking their break. And so, see, the thing is that if somebody isn't, see, breaking the cycle, if someone isn't getting triggered themselves and they're doing everything they can not to re-trigger the other person, then in about 20 minutes you're going to be able to get into what you really want, which is finding a solution to the problem. So you let them vent. You let them get it out. Listening's not agreeing. I have a group here called Socrates Cafe, and there's atheists and agnostics, and they pour forth all their ideas all the time, and I don't bounce off the wall and go crazy because I don't agree with them, but I can listen to them. Listening to them doesn't hurt me. They're not the first people to ever say, by the way, no one is the first person to say anything they're saying. And so I can be calm. And by me saying calm, that helps them, by the way, de-escalate. And we can start actually having a reasonable discussion about something sometimes. Because you see, I'm not going to play the game. See, that's the big point. Here and then there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if she meant this, but I think I heard that it might be the brain is producing dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's actually enjoying that little time.
Right. They can. Some people get off on it. Yeah. And that's why I say if the person seems to just want to stay mad, then it's all determination, what's the best strategy. Sometimes the best strategy is to say, well, time out, I'm gone. And so most people don't stay in an empty room yelling. At least not for too long, okay? So the thing is, if you take away an audience, sometimes then people will calm down. So you have to be discerning with the situation, the person, and all those different things. But this is some tools. There was something over here. Here first, yeah. Okay.
Should I have let her kept going, or?
Well, you see, first of all, you know your child better than I do. So you see, you learn by experience what works with people. Okay. So you can try many things. By the way, you don't have to be perfect. Isn't that nice to know? I feel better. Okay, so what you're doing many times in relationships is you're experimenting. So you can try that. You can say, listen, but I want to say, this is what I would say. Listen, I'm hearing what you're saying, but how could we solve this problem? What you want to do is move people from, and most people are mad because they think something unfair has happened. And we're going to say, the main thing we get mad about is you didn't treat me fair The circumstances weren't fair. God wasn't fair. The person at the store wasn't fair. Something wasn't fair. And boy, are we mad about it. Okay? So, but what happens is no one's thinking about, well, how can we make it better? Practically. We can't do anything about the past. We can't undo what happened. So what can we do? Like, are you willing to talk to your Sunday school teacher? You want me to talk to your Sunday school? You just throw ideas out. Okay? So start moving them to solution. So start taking and directing that energy into solution. Not, enough, because what will happen then? Then she'll just start pouring it inside. In other words, it's the old thing about the little boy that you say, stand up, and eventually get him to stand up, but inside saying, I'm sitting down inside. So when you tell somebody it's over, the brain can still rotate it. So you want to direct it to solution orientation, which is where you're trying to guide the conversation. Yeah. Yeah, but also here, you're not solving the problem. What you're doing is saying to them, question, how do you think we could solve the problem?
Thank you for choosing to be part of the Wise Living Water podcasts with Dr. Norman Wise. We hope these podcasts serve as a source of inspiration and enlightenment as we grow in our faith together. Our content is designed to offer wisdom, encouragement, and guidance for those seeking a deeper connection with their faith. Whether you're just beginning your spiritual exploration or have been on this path for years, there's something here for everyone. If you have any comments or suggestions about today's message, please send an email to wiselivingwaterchannel@gmail.com.